Now once more I must ride with my knights to defend what was and the dream of what could be.
Welcome to the Restitutor Orbis channel, and today we're going to be examining the Renaissance, or as we've titled it, the Medici and Magic, or Magic and the Medici, depending on which you believe came first. As we fly over the great Italian city of Florence, we're told that this is the birthplace of the Renaissance. But what exactly was the Renaissance, and why do defenders of the mainstream account tend to cite the Renaissance as evidence, as well-documented history that all of these incredible and stunning architectural achievements that we see in places such as Europe were indeed possible? Well, let's examine what exactly was the Renaissance period. We have the Broad Renaissance, which was 14 to 1500 in Europe. We have the Long Renaissance, which was 1360 to 1600. And we have the High Renaissance, 1490 to 1520 in Italy. Strange, we have so many different definitions and so many different time periods of the Renaissance, and as we look at this very stunning painting in the Vatican, we already notice the unique intricacies of the architecture in the painting itself. So what's the point behind this? Well, this very painting, which is supposed to be evidence of the great achievements of the Renaissance, shows us that they were painting a building that already had very impressive architecture in and around the building. And we also see many individuals in this painting who supposedly represent the Renaissance, although who knows for sure. And then we see other odd reliefs. The strange thing about the Renaissance, it's where Europeans went from being technologically backwards to suddenly having capabilities. My goodness, that was embarrassing. For Robin Hood. But looking in the Vatican, in the actual chapel, and we did explore this when we did the Vatican exploration, we can see that there are very stunning works of architecture mixed with art. And I think the most important thing is that we've seen these reliefs and these impressions in the ceilings of many buildings, but not just in Europe, but in buildings across the United States. So again, this gives us the visual evidence that you can still go and see and corroborate on your own to this day that there was this advanced architectural capability. That what we have in the Renaissance might have been reflecting something different. Now, a lot of us will get revolved around the whole concept that the Renaissance was fixed on very specific dates. But the reason that I highlight that there's different definitions of the Renaissance, there's different names, and there's even different regions, we're not even talking about that yet, that's affiliated with the Renaissance, it's hard to pinpoint it. We even have our first so-called world map. Now, the Urbano Monte map also occurred during the Renaissance, and this was the age of exploration. Yet, what really brought about the Renaissance? How did we go from just having people in Europe who were very uneducated and didn't know about a telescope to being brilliant, such as Leonardo da Vinci, who lived from 1452 to the early 16th century, or so we're told? Interesting picture of him, and he kind of looks like Gandalf, and you know, he even looks like one of the original figures on Mount Rushmore. And even here in this profile, this is another one of these individuals that we really have to wonder if they actually existed, because we're told that Leonardo da Vinci was the polymath of all polymaths. Not a jack of all trades, but a master of all trades. Engineer, draughtsman, artist, there was really nothing this guy couldn't do. And leave it to Star Trek Voyager to waste the character of, or the actor of John Rhys Davies portraying the character as a holodeck image. And if you're not familiar with Star Trek, holodeck was basically holograms. They weren't even real people. But I digress. Getting back to the whole concept of Leonardo da Vinci, we're told that in his numerous intellectual pursuits, which, much like many of the architects of the 19th century, he seemed to have no limit to how many hours there were in each day. He documented everything. He did documentations of the human body, interior looks at human anatomy, as though it was just something easy to do. And he even did some really nice pictures of horses, too. What really stands out, though, about Da Vinci and these other so-called polymaths, as we're told that there's many different theories for why the Renaissance happened, but what really prompted it was this influx of money, this ideal of the population to be susceptible to change after the horrifying ravages of the bubonic plague. And here in this image we have this unique depiction of the Magi. The Magi come up a lot in the titles of many of these images and artwork from this time frame, but what do they represent really? And when you look at this image, what do you see? Let me know in the comments. And then everything's not all fun and glorious. We also have images of great disaster, almost as though they were depicting something that was recently recorded, but who knows for sure. Back to the concept of the polymaths, though, when we're going to look at a couple in this exploration. Why is it that we have Leonardo da Vinci, who could achieve all these wondrous things, and including this plan of Imola, which is interestingly enough, how exactly did he get this plan? It almost looks like he was floating above it in one of his flying contraptions that he designed. Was one of those actually a practical device that was maybe used, or was he just that good that he was able to extrapolate an image as though he was looking down on it from the air? And then even in some of his other paintings, we see what are supposed to be very idealized images, and yet when we look at the architecture behind them, we've seen those kind of structures before, that sort of block work and that sort of coloring. And not even in Europe, we've seen it in the United States as well. Very interesting. And then we have some of these depictions, such as the baptism of Jesus Christ, although in this particular image, I don't know why it is, Jesus Christ looks like one of the characters from the movie Road Trip. Anyways, not to be blasphemous or anything, I'm just calling it like I see it in the artwork. The intriguing thing, though, about the polymaths is that while they had all these great abilities to design, create, and use all of their mental skills to no end, none of them were reputed to be great logisticians. In fact, it's never even mentioned. So I suppose just like the architects of the 19th century and early 20th century who could do anything and everything, they were just automatically assumed to be great logisticians. Look at this image of this armor. This armor almost looks a little bit advanced for what we'd expect to see, or a little overly intricate for the medieval time period, although this was the start of the Renaissance, and the Renaissance was the transition from the medieval time period to modernity. At least that's what we'll be told. And you consider the concept of form versus function in armor, a concept that even the movie Sword of the Valiant got correct when Gawain was wearing very ceremonial armor and it didn't do a very good job of protecting him, as there's many individuals who just seem to quickly believe and buy that heavy armor was a myth, because, modern times we can produce armor that's lighter. What was really going on, though, with Leonardo da Vinci and his seeming prophetic ability to look in the future and visualize and conceptualize immense devices that seemed hundreds of years ahead of their time? It seemed as though he was divinely inspired, as some would say, and indeed that's how the Renaissance is explained. Here we have an interesting rendering and drawing of a womb. Although, is this really a womb? This looks more like an Axetal tank from the Dune universe, courtesy of author Frank Herbert. What's really going on with all this? Was he visualizing what he was seeing? Was this really an anatomical study, or was this some sort of device that kept some sort of human or human-like creature and raised it? Very strange. Some of the other images and drawings that you see from Da Vinci are rather unique as well. Did they have more of an understanding of brain function than we're led to believe? Are there more drawings that we haven't seen? Or is this just all there is? What if the Renaissance, while it says rebirth, was really the time when our current civilization started to recover from its reset? What if this was the time and these were the many different individuals who were attributed all these wonderful achievements, and it's really just repeating the same story that we had from the architect story that we had in the 19th and 20th century? Would that make a lot more sense? It's always strange to me that we have such broad strokes when we talk about the so-called chronology of the Renaissance, because it's very ill-defined, and I recall it being a great subject of argument and debate among historians. And of course we know that historians are very professional individuals, and they always have a great idea of how they want to keep things objective. At least they say they do, until they come up with a certain theory, or they have a particular historical period that they really like, and then they develop emotional attachments. Yes, the work of the Last Supper. And this was considered divinely inspired because by using the concepts of 3D drawing, Da Vinci was able to direct all attention from wherever you look on this work to our Lord and Savior at the very center. Very impressive. And it's something that endures to this day. Well, let's take a look at Michelangelo, 1475 to 1564. So, same time frame, a little bit later than Da Vinci, but all within that broad stroke of the Renaissance period. He has a very familiar look to him, though. I'm trying to remember exactly where I've seen that look before of Michelangelo. Oh, yeah, he bears a striking resemblance to actor Willem Dafoe. Or should I say Willem Dafoe bears a resemblance to him. And Michelangelo was another one of these wondrous polymaths, and one of the theories for how the Renaissance was able to come about and be so effective and successful is you have this great men theory, that there were just these individuals who were suddenly born, all about the same time, who had this plethora of tremendous capabilities. They were engineers, they were draughtsmen, or architects, as they called them back then. They were artists, and they had the vision and the creativity that's been unmatched since then. Now, do you really see anything that is unique in their birth or their upbringing that would give you the indication as to how they could do all these things. Because remember, Michelangelo also designed the wondrous aspects of the Vatican. And not only did he paint the Sistine Chapel, but he also gave us the wondrous dome on St. Peter. At least the official history tells us. And if you're interested in seeing that, by all means, please go back and watch the Vatican exploration. And even here in these supposedly divinely inspired artistic renderings that Michelangelo did in the Sistine Chapel, we're also told, though, that painting was not one of Michelangelo's focus areas, but he was just that good, and when someone challenged him to do it, he could do it, and he would dedicate years of his life to doing it. And then towards the end of his life, just as kind of an encore or a cherry on the top, he just decided he was going to design and implement the building of St. Peter's. Now, granted, he didn't live to actually see it constructed, but he had the plan. And that's all you tend to need is a plan. And does it really matter if it's a single perspective plan? No, absolutely not. Now, what makes more sense? That we're really going along with this Renaissance, that it happened exactly as we are told, or that in reality what we had was a society, a civilization that was trying to pick up the pieces, put itself back together after a calamitous event had just occurred? Ah, there we go. That single perspective sketch. Clearly, this was all Michelangelo had to do. He didn't have to show how high it was. He certainly didn't have to talk about the logistical capacity to bring in the materials to Rome at that time to erect such a wondrous structure. It was just going to happen because he had a single perspective sketch. Some of the other artwork depicting the judgment and other aspects that are considered very divinely religious are quite intriguing. The other interesting thing about the Renaissance is how the prevailing Catholic authority at the time just decided to go along with it, because official history tells us that Catholicism, and the clergy especially, were not exactly keen on embracing the Renaissance. And we see works like this, and we're told that this is a revolutionary concept that Michelangelo came up with. But how many times have we seen pillars and columns and walls and wonderful decorations above windows in many numerous buildings across the United States, and not during the Renaissance period, but the late 19th, early 20th century? So were all these sketches innovative designs, or were these merely recordings yet again? Recordings of a people who had come back from their recent cataclysm and were trying to, as I said, put the pieces back together in a civilization that was destroyed. When we look at Florence, which we're told is the birthplace of the Renaissance, we see the mighty Florence Cathedral. Although, according to the official history, the design and layout and the start of construction of the Florence Cathedral was well before the Renaissance. And there are many other cathedrals across Europe that are well before the Renaissance. So did they really need a Renaissance to have the ability or the vision to build these wonder structures that are both colossal and yet inspired artistically? And we will be doing an exploration of Florence, and we're going to take a closer look at this cathedral. It is very unique and it is very beautiful, and we haven't looked at it yet. We think about the machinations of the bubonic plague and all the death that had pervaded Europe, and we're told that that had changed the mindset of many people, because when you wipe out half the population, supposedly, of an entire continent, people are going to remember it, and I guess they're going to be more susceptible to change, such as Dante here, who had given us Dante's Inferno. Interesting artwork, though, and depiction of many of these individuals, because you notice that they appear to be wearing rather, how shall I say, uniform clothing. What exactly is Dante even wearing here in this image? Now, we'll be told it's an idealized image, but Dante's Inferno, with the exploration of heaven, hell, the Inferno, going down to the 9 levels of hell, seeing Satan at the pit in the middle, and then when it's all done, meeting your love interest in your life, and that's going to be the person, in addition to a saint, who could take you to heaven. Yes, Dante's Inferno. Very well broadcast and advertised by the church. And we have other scholars who were told started studying things, because the other thing that was just remarkably picked up during the Renaissance was the study of all the classical works from antiquity, Roman Greco works that for a long time were told that the church feared these works and certainly didn't want the pervasion of these works going along in society at the time. Yet somehow it was reading these works and seeing what remained of these Roman buildings that, by the way, had always been there, at least if we go off the official account, that had inspired these wondrous works of art and the ability of these artists and these people of many talents of the Renaissance to be successful. Except, of course, for Florence Cathedral. They didn't need any divine inspiration there. They didn't need a Renaissance. They didn't need an Industrial Revolution. They were perfectly capable of building this magnificent and colossal edifice, and the tower included. So what is really going on? What really makes sense? Well, they explain it with the Medici banking family. The Medicis were the early banking family of Italy, and eventually their influence and power spread to all of Europe, and they lasted for several generations. But in summary, what they were known for, they were the real patrons of the art. They were the financial supporters of the Renaissance. And so you have this nexus, if you will, of miraculous events all occurring at the same time, and that's why we say it's magic or it's the Medicis. It's both. You just had all these so-called great men who were all born at the same time, and then you had the mighty banking family of the Medicis. Hey, that's one of the Medicis, and he kind of looks like Cosmo Spacely from the Jetsons, just with a bunch of hair. I don't know, maybe it's just my imagination going off on me. But the Medicis had a lot of influence, they had a lot of money, and they were the original banking family of Europe. And they dominated many different nations. Lorenzo de' Medici, for example, he was one of the civic leaders and the primary leader of Florence. And of course, he was a patron of the arts and financially supported the Renaissance. And that's why Florence was really the birthplace of the Renaissance, because you had this banking family who had innovated great banking techniques. And let's talk about Catherine de' Medici, 1519 to 1589. And she's featured prominently in the recent TV series Reign, played wonderfully by Megan Follows. Now, interestingly enough, we're told by numerous different historical segments and studies that Catherine de' Medici was really the power behind the scenes. Yet at the same time, she was also quite functionally involved as being the de facto leader of France, and some even say the de facto leader of Europe from behind the scenes. Although things weren't all fun and games and joyful explorations and artistic creations, there was a lot of upheaval with the Catholic and Protestant conflict that was going on at that time, because the advent of Lutheranism and the Protestant religion was quite an affront to the collective dignity of the Catholics, which the Medici family was firmly entrenched on the side of, if you've heard that terminology before. So Catherine Medici and her role, hey, look at that, this is a image from her wedding, and it looks like we got a little lion there. Did they have a little pet lion that went around with their wedding? You look at some of these images, though, and you're trying to figure out, are these actual historical representations? Because we're told this painting was done sometime after her marriage, and it doesn't really even matter who she married, because we're simply told she was really the person with the power. She made stuff happen. Indeed, it's well documented that she had an entire stable, if you will, of, we'll call them spies, but people who would gather information for her. Several well-cultured women who she would send out to seduce many of the men of influence, and that's how she would learn their secrets, and pulled the strings from behind the scenes. I'm not going to recommend the TV show Reign, but if you're interested in seeing it, you can see a very, now shall we say, intriguing representation of Catherine de' Medici. Did she really exist, though? Maybe, maybe not. Yes, St. Bartholomew's Massacre, where we had the unfortunate killings of many Protestants and their families, and supposedly this was on the orders of Catherine Medici herself, although recently there's been a lot of debate behind it. Now, what makes more sense? That we have this religious schism that's going on, and here's Catherine Medici herself touring the devastation, gravely assessing the damage. Upstanding queen and national leader stuff. And if anybody knows what that quote's from, let me know. But in this image, you can see that it paints the picture that she's a very ruthless person who is more than happy to have people killed. And there's numerous artistic renderings of this horrifying massacre, whether it's St. Bartholomew's Massacre or any other time that numerous people were killed in horrifying ways at the orders of the so-called absolute monarchy or royalty that we're told ruled with an iron fist at that time. What it really boils down to with Anne of Green Gables here, I mean Megan Follows, I mean Catherine Medici, is that she was someone who did manage to pull the strings from behind the scenes. She was really the ultimate power broker across Europe during her lifetime. And on the side, she also supported the Renaissance because she was a patron of the arts. Unlike Maximilian here, the Holy Roman Emperor, he looks very dignified in that image, nice hat there. He was aghast by all these attacks against the Protestants at the same time. At least that's what the official history tells us. So once again, we have conflicting accounts. He looks very regal and dignified, unlike Captain Stransky here. Steiner! Steiner! How do I reload? How do I reload? Yes, Prussian militarism at its finest there. Oh, and here we have Nostradamus. Nostradamus, whose predictions actually started off some of the actions of Catherine Medici, allegedly. I remember in the 1990s when there were many different prophecy shows that were talking about the wondrous quatrains of Nostradamus' writing, talking about World War III, and then, of course, they pivoted. Let's talk about the Oration on the Dignity of Man. Now, supposedly, this was one of the works from the Renaissance that talked about wondrous things, the idea of an individual seeking liberty, seeking knowledge. Really, there's some wonderful stuff written in this particular work, and yet for whatever reason, while it's attributed to the Renaissance, it seems to have been ignored over time. In addition to many of the popes at the time during the Renaissance being, well, classified as just completely and totally corrupt. Now, I know that's a very absurd thought to think of someone in clergy, especially the high papal authority, being corrupt, but that's what we're told in the official history, so as I always say, make of it what you will. Let's take a look at some of the architecture. What we're told is that in France at that time, there was also an architectural renaissance. Now, granted, they didn't have any of these great polymaths of Italy, but apparently they had their own polymaths that just seemed to come up out of the woodwork because, whenever you have a renaissance, you can just generate people who are ultimate masters of all trade, not to be confused with jacks of all trade. And when we look at some of these architectural wonders across France, and we're told that they were all designed and built during this time frame of the Renaissance, we can see some of the most intriguing and very remarkable architectural design, especially on the interior, where we see these incredible reliefs and all this detail that goes in the ceilings of many of these buildings. Suddenly they were just able to do this. But remember, this conflicts with what we see when we look at the older cathedrals that were designed and construction started before the Renaissance. So what's the real story? And look at the interior in some of these very impressive buildings across France, where you see some of the greatest beauty. Indeed, we haven't really explored the so-called bark style yet on the channel, but we'll be getting to it. And we're told that a lot of that was improvised and designed during the latter part of the Renaissance. And once again, another single perspective sketch, because you don't need to know exactly how high the buildings are that you're going to be building. You just need to have a layout, and a two-dimensional layout at that, because apparently we seem to live in a two-dimensional world, do we? You look at some of the other architecture, though, and some of the designing, and you can see what was depicted in the paintings earlier, and yet what came first? Did the buildings come first? Did the paintings come first? Did the ideology and the concept come first of the buildings, and then they built them? Then they painted them? It's really intriguing. And then, of course, we see the old columns integrated with the wall, an impressive architectural feature that seems to be very advanced. But the other thing that a lot of people who use the Renaissance to defend the whole concept of, well, people just decided to start learning again in Europe after being unable to use a telescope, even nobility on crusades who resemble Kevin Costner. So why did they decide to embrace learning again? Well, they noticed that they had all these wondrous buildings from the Roman time frame, and then they started reading all the works of classical antiquity. And voila, you get a little bit of financial support from a banking family, the Medicis, and it's magic. It all just happens like this. This is all it really takes. Some of these palaces in France are just jaw-dropping to this day. And you see it in the cupola and the very intricate design here of the roof of this wondrous palace. We're going to be looking at many of these buildings and exploring them in greater detail. But just for this exploration, we're just looking at how they classified all the columns. Here's the other interesting thing, though, about the Renaissance that a lot of people don't mention. They don't realize that virtually all the accounts that we have, all the so-called official historical accounts of both the entire Roman Empire and the time of Greece, were found and published during the Renaissance, as though they were completely lost during that period of the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, because remember, the Eastern Roman Empire continued on until about the 15th century. Look at the geometric precision here in this dome, and looking at the palace from a different perspective, and the advanced construction that you see within it. Now, we're to be told that this is merely the innovations of the Renaissance. Yet, ask the question, is this something that we could do today? Is this something that we could achieve today with the building materials? Let me know in the comments. Even the palaces in France that don't appear as ornate or as finely detailed are still impressive just by the virtue of their position and how they factor into the land and the water. So what are we looking at when we see these images? Well, it seems to be we're looking at previous civilizations. And indeed, virtually all the cathedrals, all the buildings that we're looking at, it cannot be explained by just saying, yes, it's the Renaissance, it's the magic. You have great men who could do everything that were all born at the same time, and you have the Medicis who figured out the magical tricks with money that nobody else in the previous history figured out, or they were all just too stupid. Of course, people were only stupid in the Middle Ages of the medieval times until they weren't, and then suddenly they were smart. It's magic. And quite frankly, that seems to be how the historical account reads. And when you look at these renderings and these drawings, again, you ask the question, were these what they designed, or were they just recording what they saw? And if you think about them just recording what they saw, it suddenly makes a lot more sense. Because when you see these kind of reliefs and impressions and this sort of detail built in a ceiling, it's very difficult to explain that not only did they just suddenly have architects or polymaths who were available in vast quantity during the Renaissance, they also had the people who did the construction who could do it. Or are we to believe that also the polymaths were the ones who did the construction too? Not only were they unlimited by their mental capacity, they were also unlimited by their physical capacity. Michelangelo built St. Peter's with his bare hands and did it in the last few years of his life. Of course, we're told he died well before it was completed, but don't let that stop you. You also look at some of the other works of art and you consider the type of people that you see being portrayed in these works of art. Now, were these idealized individuals from the Renaissance, or were these depicting some previous civilization? Because when you see certain images like this, it does not line up with anything that we're told or we understand of the culture and the society at the time. We also have the numerous and ubiquitous images that we see depicting an idealized people. And the explanation will be, well, they were merely depicting angels, they were depicting deities, they were depicting religious representations, and they did it all the time on every single building, like the scales up there. But what's really the story behind it? Why do you need a very complex stairway such as this on this palace? What's it really showing and what's its true purpose? Well, we've come to our theories before on the channel, and the Renaissance seems to be an attempt by the mainstream to try to explain why they have these wondrous and stunning achievements that don't make any practical sense. What's really the purpose behind the very complex series of portal windows there? Well, we have our theories with cymatics. Here you have the pediment, and you have these very complex columns that were built in this. And you're nobody unless you have a very big door, to quote Steve Martin from LA Story, and it seems that was very much the case during the Renaissance, again, if we're to believe the official history. But then you also have these numerous palaces that also have the artwork integrated in the walls. And remember, that was also a styling that we saw, both architectural and artistic, in Art Deco, which is a reason why we're going to have to go back and take another look at Art Deco. Now you're saying, well, Art Deco didn't come until the early 20th century. Yes, but we have to consider the similarities. It tells us something completely different than what the mainstream account tells us. It shows us something different. Here, even in the floor with the very beautiful tiling and the arrangement and the patterns. It's something that defies the explanation that we're given from the mainstream account. Here, with the pillars integrated in the wall and these angelic figures, at least what we're told are angelic figures, but could they be representing something else? And what exactly is going on in the ground in this image? You can also see it in the construction material. What's the exact construction material? Because we know, at least we have an understanding of what kind of concrete was available at the time, but it seems to be that there were far more advanced types of building materials that were available than we can even begin to imagine. And even just managing to build a building like this in the water with these arches. Who could do this today with this kind of material that it would last for so long? And once again, no shortage of very large and ornately decorated doors. And what's that really reflect and what's that allude to? Well, let me know in the comments. What do you think the decorations around this door really mean? What's with the figure that's exactly above the door? And I appreciate the column and what looks to be bricks on either side of it. We also have the very height of monasteries, the beautiful monastery buildings, and this is one in Spain that we'll be exploring in due time. And we can see that, was this really something built during the Renaissance? Or was this something that was built to overcome the reset and survive the reset for learning to occur? You might have heard of Robert Greene, the author of the 48 Laws of Power. Robert Greene's an author who supposedly has discovered all the mysteries of how to exist and flourish in our current civilization, and yet he uses many historical examples. And I will give credit where credit's due. The 48 Laws of Power is a very technically well-written book, as he justifies all his laws of power by historical example. And he loves to... So let's examine his 48 Laws of Power in a little bit more detail. And we notice that the very first law of power is never outshine the master. Isn't it interesting how that's the very first law? So I think that reviewer who looked at this book was quite correct when they said that this book was really more about fitting into a system. But is it really about power, or is it about you forfeiting your individual power to fit into a system? Because the very first rule is never outshine the master. So it's admitting that there is a master. Now there is some good advice in it, if you will, although I don't know if I'd consider it advice, where you see things such as win both hearts and minds. So again, it all revolves around being overly concerned with what others think of you, that you have a master and that you're trying to fit into a system. Crush your enemy totally. Now that's good advice, but how often do we see that truly happen? It seems as though in modern times, when it comes to conflict, nobody ever gets crushed completely. Protect your reputation. And there it is right there. overly concerned with what others think of you. And if you really think about it, this book isn't really about power, it's about forfeiting power. And while Mr. Green tends to use the Medicis a lot in many different examples as they had power, it really begs the question, does anybody really have power? Or if you go off of this book as the ultimate template, and yes, he says things such as create your own identity because you need a little bit of Orwellian doublespeak to really have this book make a lot of sense. Is he really talking about exercising power or forfeiting power to fit into an existing power scheme? Because if you think about it, isn't that exactly what the Medicis did? Did they ever really have any power? If they did in fact exist. Do any of the current influential families have power? Or what we think of as powerful individuals? Well, you just ask yourself the question, do they control their own time? And the answer is no. They don't have really any control over their own time. Their day, their week, their month, their entire next year is already dictated to them. We'll be exploring the Florence Cathedral and its beautiful achievements, again done before the Renaissance. Well, I hope you enjoyed this exploration. Thanks for joining us. Please like, comment, and subscribe. See my pointer just fine. Right now, we spend a lot of our time verifying that there were buildings that were potentially from a previous civilization before ours. But does that mean that on this channel that I discount other theories? No, I never discount other theories. There is evidence that actually goes both ways a lot of times, which is quite fascinating. So, yeah, exactly. Don't worry, we're getting to the old Berenstein Bears too, so. I have heard of many different alternate timelines under many different names, so it's a fascinating consideration. So for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the 5 Eras theory. It's on the Unified Theories of Tartaria in the Old World video. It's one of the baseline videos for the channel. So now looking at the 5 Eras theory, this just gives you a pictorial representation of it. So we started with the Golden Age, we progressed to the Tartarian Age, and after several hard resets, we've progressed to the Contemporary Age, or the Age of Portland Cement. Hey, the Philosopher's Stone, good to see you. Yep, the Not Nilk Matt, that's exactly right. I forgot, that's his big term, Not Nilk. It's been a while since I've watched his channel. I've been a little busy with on-the-ground exploration, so... Anyways, this is a pictorial representation of the 5 eras, and in the Golden Age you have the Tower of Babel, and from the Tartarian Age you have the Arch of Triumph in France. No, I'm not going to try the French pronunciation. You can all laugh at me in the videos and not here on the live stream. And then the Contemporary Age. Now, yeah, and Adam Baum brings up a great comment right there. What if we all died on 12/21/2012 and are just now realizing it? And there's evidence for that too. So I know this gets a little crazy and it goes down a lot of different rabbit holes. So I'm going to try to keep it grounded in considering it as a theory. So I'm glad you enjoy the on-the-ground explorations. I think there's something important to that, especially with interacting with the material of the buildings. So staying on topic here with the 5 eras theory, now we go to the overall theories that I consider for all these explorations. So these are the main 6 theories that I'm often going with. And we have theory number 1, which is the 5 eras of time, and that's the one we typically deal with. There's theory number 2, that there was a very different era of the land. In other words, that's where we have the colossal flora and fauna from the past, pictured right here, and then potentially either tree stumps or gigantic buildings, depending on who you talk to. Many explorers go back and forth on that. And then we are living in a simulation. Could it be we're living in a simulation and that's why we have this Mandela effect, where different people remember different things? Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Ann. I can remember an alarm going off as I was working on a military base at the time as a contractor, and there was an alarm that went off and everybody panicked. And then, of course, it was a false alarm. Yeah, I'm with you on that one too, Jamie. I mean, there could be many different timelines and we just don't know. But what we're seeking to validate, and what I haven't really touched base on recently on the channel, is are we living in a simulation, or could we even be living in a dream? Or could it be some combination of these theories? All these things are possible, and I believe they're possible when we look to explore exactly what's going on with these previous civilizations that may or may not have existed, and trying to validate what's real. And yes, I even have it on there that it could be nothing's happening and historical events have occurred just as the mainstream tells us. Do I believe that's very likely? No. And in fact, with each subsequent exploration, I see that as being less and less likely. Especially if you just go down and you knock on those Art Deco buildings in Kansas City that apparently a mafioso easily built. So, yep, fungus about Devil's Tower. And it all might be. And M1, good one right there. Could be a combination of the theories, and that's exactly what it boils down to. And that's what we're trying to validate and prove or disprove. Because really all we can do is just interface with our world as best we can and all the different means that we can and try to determine exactly what's going on. And that might be a possibility too. So, could be. Or maybe you're my dream, or maybe we're someone else's dream. Remember that line from Game of Thrones when it was still good? And there's also a theory that the sky is blue because we're in the blue eye of a large giant. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that, CCJD, excuse me. And it just might. And it could be a collective dream too. Those are all great theories. So that's the background behind it. And these are the overall theories that I seek to validate in all my explorations. And I do keep all of these in mind. And so when someone in the comments tries to tell me one little detail or one little specific piece of information is going to prove or disprove anything, it's probably not going to carry a lot of weight with me. Of course, my favorite saying is, it's very well documented, or my personal favorite saying, which I heard back in academia, you need to do more research. Oh yeah, the Truman Show. That's a good one too. And you know what? It can be pretty fun too when you think about it. I mean, a lot of people succumb to the fear behind it. One thing I'm never going to go with on this channel is fear. So yeah, it certainly did, Adam. And that's a lot of what we deal with. So that's probably going to have to be one that I get with Dr. Salad on one of the movie reviews. I got a doozy coming up, though, this week. We're getting back to movie reviews since I'm back at the home station. So it's a little easier to make videos here. Anyways, let's get one of the little banners up. Welcome, everybody. Just please support the channel and hit that like button before we go looking at some specific examples of the Mandela Effect. And I appreciate all your support, and it's just amazing to see that there's this much participation on a holiday weekend. I can remember when I started the channel, and it didn't seem like there was really anybody around on holiday weekends, and I'm just completely blown away. So thank you for being here, and I always appreciate your ideas, and I think that's where I learn a lot, is just from listening to what you have to say, whether it's here or in the comments. So just a thank you to everybody. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's start looking at some specific examples of the Mandela Effect, and we'll talk about them. So Nelson Mandela, the president leader of South Africa, the very name of the Mandela Effect. Hey, Charlie. Yeah, you're welcome. So many people remember Nelson Mandela as having died sometime in the 80s or the 90s, depending on who you talk to. But yet Nelson Mandela lived and he was elected president, but other people remember him as having died. So it's a very interesting consideration with the historical context, because you have a good deal of people who remember it very differently. In fact, one of the history instructors I taught with was quite frankly under the impression that Nelson Mandela had died. Well, there you go. Yeah, that shows you something right there, doesn't it? Hey, T-Fetch, good to see you. But that's where the naming convention, the Mandela Effect, came from. Memorizing a historical individual with a different path. You might even call it alternate history. And that's what a lot of people remember. Did he die? Didn't he die? What's reality? What's not? Well, I don't recall any changes with Nelson Mandela, but and there you go. Different people remember different things. You know what? That's funny you say that, Kathleen. Maybe we should call it the Barker effect now. I remember Bob Barker passing away in the 2000s, like 2 years after he retired. Then I was surprised when Drew Carey said, oh no, we're going to do a commemoration show. It was an odd week for me too. Yeah, exactly. And that could be, you could have different timelines that are overlapping. It could be the reality. It could be that we're in a dream, or it could be a simulation. So everything's on the table here. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I don't know if that has anything necessarily to do with it. It's certainly been something that's been thrown in our faces, especially in the 21st century, but it could be some sort of scientific explanation like that, or it could have always been this way. Yep. And I talked to a lot of people who remember it that way. So, yeah, exactly. And so, just this one little example we have with Nelson Mandela and Bob Barker. And we already have divergent memories, even with the group in here. Now, it's not to say anybody's wrong. That's why I always find it interesting when somebody remembers something differently. Yes, we're conditioned to think somebody's wrong, but that doesn't mean that somebody's wrong necessarily. Yeah, that could be. And it's not to say there couldn't be some physical explanation, or it's just misinformation. A lot of misinformation that's thrown at us to confuse us, because we always know the reason they want us confused. And it's a simple reason. When people are confused, they tend to defer to authority a lot more. Believe me, I saw that a lot in academia, and I'm sure you've seen it all the time. Yeah, possible. Many different possibilities. So, yeah, good one there, Dennis. Good one. Oh, yes, Adam. Bring up Ed McMahon. How do you spell that again? Oh, yeah. And they still get all those lovely emails from the Publishers Clearinghouse, too. So, all right, let's move on to the next picture. So, current world map. This is a fun one. We're going to start with geography after we looked at Nelson Mandela, Bob Barker, and many others, including Ed McMahon. So, this is the current world map as it appears. So, I'll zoom in on it first. And this is what we'll be told from our friends on the Google Earth. I always love it when John Levi calls it that. He's absolutely right. The Google Earth, this is what it shows us. The exact position of the continents, the islands, the distances and spaces between them. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. And it just might. And that's always something else that we have to wonder about. Oh, there could be. And I certainly have an 11-year cycle that I can trace back from 2023, but that's a discussion for another time. Eric the Red, Mr. Hamster Crane, thanks for joining us. It's all good. I understand you get a little busy, so. Yeah, that is a really awkward experience. And, Jennifer, it gets further when you think about family members and your significant other. So, all right. Well, this isn't Find the North Pole today, so. That's okay, Adam. Spelling and pronunciations were never my strong points either. I just do the best that I can. You should have seen my students make fun of me too. Kind of used to it. So, anyway, back on topic. So, we look at the map and we see how the world appears. But now we go down to how some people remember the world appearing. Now, let's talk about the major differences. One of the big differences is the position of South America. A lot of people remember South America being directly south of North America, as opposed to slightly to the east of North America. That's probably one of the biggest differences right there. Another difference that we talked about in one of the videos I did was the position of New Zealand. In actuality, New Zealand is south and east of Australia, but a lot of people remember it being either more directly east or northeast. So, intriguing differences with perspective and geography right there. Yeah, exactly. Law of reversal. And here's another one you may not be aware of. The positioning and the difference between the Strait of Gibraltar, the space between Spain and Northwest Africa. A lot of people remember that space being a little bit more thick. And yes, Eric, you're right. Greenland being shaped very differently and positioned very differently. So just consider this. This is just geography, something that we take for granted. A lot of people know geography very well. A lot of people just have a practical knowledge of it. And yet we can find this many differences just on this map. And there are people who swear they remember things very differently. So, exactly, Juliana. And a lot of people remember it that way, and other people remember it differently. I actually remember it somewhat in between. So, not quite that far east, but not that directly south, but maybe somewhere in the middle. So, yeah, and that's a good point, Jamie. Maybe I should say rimward, right? Or hubward. Yep. And you know what? It could be something with the memory, but the problem is it's just a little too prevalent, and there's too many people who've reported it. So it's hard to say for sure exactly what it is. So here's your other classic example right here, where you see the difference in positioning of South America. And this is probably one of the biggest ones. There are a lot of people who remember South America being directly south of North America, as opposed to just off to the east. So, and another thing is, could it simply be, oh yeah, Cuba disappeared? That's a good point. And also another one I didn't mention is the difference with let me get it back up here. The difference with the opening of the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of people remember the Gulf of Mexico being a lot more open running to the Caribbean, and currently it's actually a lot more closed. So it's very fascinating. If anybody remembers playing that Pirates game on the original NES, yes, I'm going to date myself there. They actually had A depicted a lot more in that game. I think that came out in 1991, 92. It was one of Sid Meier's masterpieces. So, yep. It just might be. Oh, yeah. Well, don't bother with that. You're not going to find any consistency there. Oh, I see. Good call out, though. Yeah, size of Cuba. That's a good one. And a lot of people do, Kathy. And I can remember the map on the left a little bit better. So, yeah, it's just very interesting. The divergence in views. And, is it just a memory issue, or is there really something different going on? So that's all something we have to consider. Okay, next one. All right, we already talked about New Zealand, but it's even the positioning of New Guinea and how close it is to Australia. And that came up with, I knew somebody out there would remember it. That came up when I was doing the exploration down on New Zealand, and I'm going to be picking up Australia a little bit. So, yeah, a lot of people do remember that one as well. Okay, so now let's go to some corporate brand signs. Chick-fil-A. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Hey, I got a question for everybody. Did everybody notice a shocking decline in the quality of Chick-fil-A? That is, if you do eat it after 2020, or is that just me? Yeah, but don't talk about that Pirates movie in the 1990s, the one that sank Gina Davis's career, okay? So, yes, the difference in the Chick-fil-A logo. And is it Chick with a K or Chick without a K? Again, that could just be a little difference there. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. What's that there, Michelle? What if it's a holding pattern simulation to buy time? It could well be. It could well be. And there's actually a movie that was made called The Mandela Effect that posited that and goes with the simulation theory. I don't think it was a very good movie, but that's just my opinion. I'll give you my opinion and tell you when it's my opinion. Ah, yes, all fast food. I don't really eat fast food anymore at all. I don't touch it, but that's just my choice. I don't look down on people who eat fast food. Eat what you need to eat. Make your own choice. So, yeah, exactly. And a lot of people remember it as Chick. But is it Chick with a K? I don't know. Yeah, and I wonder if that's something else that they just try to run by us without us noticing, Adam. And that could be something quite possible. So, oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Ann. It was a much better one. So, check out yesterday. So, well, I don't know, T-Fetch. Which is it? What is it really? Everybody answer T-Fetch. This is a great example. Is it Chick with the K, Chick without the C? I don't know. Because you know what? I can tell you what they say on the sign, and I can tell you what we're told, but what was it originally? It's a great point. Little subtle changes like this. Now, is it like Adam suggested, and then they're just rebranding logos for tax breaks? Sure. Hey, Elbow, welcome. Yeah, that could be too. Okay, enough of that one. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so I don't know if any of your fans are Star Trek The Next Generation, but you probably noticed it, me quoting the show quite a bit and showing clips of the show. One of the things that I never remember from the show, even though I watched every episode when it came out, yes, I was a Star Trek geek, that's okay, I'll admit it. And then even in the reruns, apparently Captain Picard always used this crystal, and he was always talking, gesturing with this crystal. I do not remember this crystal in the original show. I don't remember it when I watched it, and there are other people who don't remember it, because this crystal completely changes Captain Picard's character. Oh, thanks. What's our real story? I appreciate that. Yep, live long and prosper. Live long and prosper. Prosper. Sometimes you have to laugh at yourself. See, and some people remember the crystal and some people don't, Kathy. And I'm glad you say that because I'd probably say it's about half and half. Half people who watch the show remember the crystal. I do not. And the reason why it's such a big deal is because the crystal and using the crystal to talk changes Captain Picard's character. Because what did we respect about Captain Picard? Well, the depiction that Patrick Stewart gave when he portrayed Captain Picard was that he was an authoritative figure, but he was an enlightened intellectual. Of course, it depends on who was writing the show at the time, and we won't mention the fact that in the very first couple episodes, he was known for surrendering. And just in case anybody's wondering, yes, I preferred Captain Kirk, played by William Shatner, but that's just me. I still respected Captain Picard, as played by Patrick Stewart, but I don't remember the crystal. Because to me, someone gesturing with a crystal, it kind of makes him seem like he's a little bit less sure of himself. Now, granted, this was somebody who, had their counselor, their therapist sitting next to them as they voyaged the galaxy and conducted their business, Starfleet, not a military organization. But the crystal is a big deal because it completely changes the perception of the character. So, yeah, exactly. And it's something that you don't notice until you're really looking for it. So did it just get by me? I don't know. Hey, Samuel, how you doing? Oh, yeah. Was that a new one to you, Logan? Yeah, it was a new one to me, too. So, yeah, I'm just not so wild about his hairstyle. But, I was kind of a Jeffrey Hunter fan. Oh, there you go. Good one, Jamie. Good one. And that's just it. And that's probably another 50-50 one. And it's a great example from pop culture. People don't remember the crystal. A lot of people do remember the crystal. So maybe we just thought it was something else. I can remember I thought he always gestured with either a tricorder or he always had a cup of Earl Grey in his hand. But, who knows for sure. So, yeah, exactly, Adam. And you might remember we did a little special on crystals. And it's interesting how crystals are known and thought to have healing properties. And we speculate they did in the old world. So, well, thanks, Samuel. I appreciate that. So, well, he doesn't talk to it, Ann. He just talks with it, basically. He gestures with it. Kind of like you'd see a military officer with a pointer. So, like here, he's talking to Rasmussen in that episode where they had the historian who they thought was from the future, but was really from the 22nd century and was knocking stuff off. So, thanks, Larry. I appreciate that. Yep, I'm with you on that one, and thank you for that, uni tie. Yeah, we don't need to go there. Oh, I see. Just wait until you see the review movie on the movie this week. You'll get a lot of that, more than you want. Yep, fractal information storage devices. Absolutely right. So, good example there with old Jean-Luc. We'll move on. And another image of him actually talking with it. Now, see, again, I do not remember this, so. Yeah, he sure did. You're absolutely right. What's our real story? Good old Leonard Nimoy. I would give anything to see classic new In Search of episodes. I remember watching that when I was a kid, so. What's that, Ann? No, that isn't it. Oh, you mean the original VHS tapes? I see what you're saying. You know what? I have to go back and watch those because it's been a while since I've watched the show, and unfortunately, I'll admit I've been cheating and just doing it on streaming. I need to go back and watch my VHS tapes. Very lax of me, but granted, I haven't been home, so I have an excuse. So, yeah, that's just it. And that's what a lot of people recall. They don't recall the crystal. So, I will verify that, though, Ann. Thanks for calling that out. I need to watch the original VHS tapes and see what's actually on there. Now, I have had this happen before. I'm going to explain my personal Mandela effects that I have tried to verify. I just didn't go with this one. So, that's a good one. All right. So, little family farm here. And I bring this up because I grew up on a family farm. And this is something that I'm just showing to give you an idea of how the Mandela effect can change things. So, there was a very distinct feeling when I went to this family farm that I was always going home. And this lasted probably until the early 2000s. Then probably about after 2005, I noticed there were subtle things that changed. Now, things change on farms all the time. I understand. Buildings get torn down. The barn gets torn down, the silo gets torn down, the corn crib gets torn down, etc. But the house usually remains and it's always the same. But when I went back home and I checked out my house in Minnesota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, all for you to guess, where I went, I noticed that the house itself had changed in very subtle ways, and it was not the same house. Even though it looked the same, there were subtle differences with it, and it didn't feel exactly right. Yeah, you might be onto something there too, man. But in any event, I mean, have any of you ever gone home or the house that you've grown up in and ever had that feeling that even though it looked the same, something felt a little different about it, something intuitive that you have, that feeling that we have when we verify old world buildings? So, yeah, I wonder about that one too. But that's something that you go home and you notice those little details, and even if they're the same, does something feel different? So, okay. Well, I'm glad it's not just me there, Jamie. So I've talked to other people about it, and people that I've explored with, people that I've talked with, and they say the same thing. Certain things don't seem the same, and yet you'd expect things to be the same on a farm. So what to make of that, I'm not sure. Yeah, good one, Eric, the Monopoly guy. You're onto something there, Michelle. Things definitely seem to shift a bit in 2017 too, for some reason. So. Yeah, and I'm with you on that one too, Jamie. I have some that feel right, and I have others that don't. So, yeah, that's what it boils down to. Okay, moving on to the next one. Okay, our good old friend, the Cheshire Cat. Raven Madley, I don't know if you're on, but I didn't put this in here for a call out, but the Cheshire Cat and a lot of the original movies. A lot of people remember Alice in Wonderland very differently. So, well, you can help in many different ways just by being here and watching. That helps enough. If you'd like to do more, shoot me a note. There's many different ways. So, yes. Oh, goodness gracious. Hey, Polly. Oh, yeah. Better late than never. I say the same thing. I've had that happen, especially at times. So this goes back to the whole movie concept, though, and a lot of people remember some of these movies very fundamentally. So, well, Samuel, welcome. Appreciate that. Yeah, exactly, Polly. And I think that's what it boils down to. Now, could this just be someone trying to mess with our sanity or leave us in those uncertain terms? It could be, but that would be quite an effort. And I don't think anyone's capable of that. That's certainly where I'm in the camp that Matt over at Quantum of Conscience is, that I don't believe that powers have that kind of power. But maybe they do. It could be wrong, but it seems to be something. So, well, welcome aboard. I appreciate it. Good one, Tristan. Yep, and that's the saying that cat had. We're all mad here. I don't remember who the voice actor of the cat was, but I remember seeing it so many times when I was a kid. My goodness, I saw it way too many times. So anyway, that goes back to the movie example. And then, of course, we already talked about the Luke, I am your father. No, I am your father. I don't do a very good James Earl Jones. I do a much better Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, yeah, and that's a good one there, M1. And it might be, if it's a simulation or what have you. Hey, Three Forest Animals, hello. Good one, Kathy. Oh, yeah. Good old clowns again. So, and I've had that feeling too, Michelle. And I remember there was a creepy game that even dealt with that. I think it was Silent Hill 4. So, yep, you're right, John. It was on the bumper sticker, and it was misquoted in Tommy Boy as well. Luke, I am your father. No, I am your father. Yeah, and a lot of people remember it that way. I remember it as no, I am your father, but, I'm not going to go off on the line here by saying Empire was my favorite movie. So, hey, Howard, welcome. Good to see you. All right, let's go on to the next one. Now, this is another one for me. So I'm going to admit, you'll learn a little something about me here. I was a big Journey fan. I always loved the band Journey. However, would you be surprised to know, and yes, I was alive and listening to music in the 1980s, so I'll date myself a little bit there. Would you be surprised to know that there was a Journey album I never knew about and I never heard a song from? And it was Raised on Radio. I didn't find out about Raised on Radio until about, I think it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And I was shocked. I was thinking to myself, how did I miss a release of a Journey album? Apparently, this one was produced by Steve Perry, at least when I did the research on it. Yeah, you're right, Adam. That's a good point. But it's a great example of how an album from my favorite band got past me. And I don't know how the heck that happened. And in fact, it even has one of my favorite Journey songs on it, Happy to Give. I really enjoy that song. I had never heard it before 2021. It was really bizarre. Of course, you know, if you're a fan of 80s music and you get into the synth wave, which is something I'm going to talk about on the 80s video, who knows what's really going on there. So, oh yeah, Polly. Well, that's why that was one of the early films on Old World Movie Films. So, lion changed to wolf. Yep. Are you serious, Michelle? So it wasn't just me that Raised on Radio got past? Yep, Raised on Radio. Try the song Happy to Give. It's a really good song. I had never heard of it, so this is just one of my personal ones. You know what? That could be an insightful carrier. And I speculate that a lot of that synth wave might be. Or some program generated it. Who knows if there's really AI out there. Okay, well, thank goodness. I've talked to a couple friends. It's half and half. Because there were a lot of good Journey fans and they remember it and half don't. It's just one personal example for me. Like, how did a Journey album get past me? How did a song that was good to me get past me? You know, it's not that I was that busy in the late 1980s. I mean, you know, I was in that phase of life where I was just enjoying it. And then whenever new music came out, or remember Friday Night Music Video, I'll date myself again there. I always caught it. So how could I miss it? I don't know. Yeah, that's a very good point. I agree with you on that one. Well, I got a special one this week, and I think it's an important one that we remember because there's a lot of warnings in the movie coming up this week on the Old World in the Movies review. So, okay, another personal one for me. This is from the TV series, or should I say the TV miniseries, V, The Final Battle. Hey, Dwayne, good to see ya. Yeah, you're probably right on that one. I got a video coming up about that, Dr. Salad, so just give me a few days, or actually it'll probably be about a week, but it's on the topic list. So yeah, and that goes along with the deaths of famous people. So anyway, on to V here. This is from V, The Final Battle. Now, I remember this very clearly because this scared the living crap out of me when I was probably you'd still consider me a kid when I saw it the first time. But here's the thing. I remember the top screen. I remember the middle, but the bottom picture, I do not remember it that way at all. For one, this is what it really is right now. I don't remember this cute little puppet. I don't remember the bars, and I don't remember the sound that it was making. It was kind of going, ah, ah, ah. That's what it sounded like. And this was when I saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel in the early 2000s. I hadn't watched it since it originally premiered. I think it was 1983 was when The Final Battle premiered. I'm shooting from the hip there. It might have been 1984. But, hey, Galt, welcome. Yeah, it does. And here's how I remember this scene. So what I remember from this scene is that they were in a hospital. It was not a place with bars. And you did not see the lizard baby come out of her belly. It was actually taken to a crib and you didn't see it. And then you saw it appear briefly. It only lasted 3 seconds and there was not a sound from it. And I think it's the sound that's a giveaway to me because I know I would remember the sound of it trying to gurgle its way to breathe. And I remember you just saw this terrifying apparition for 3 seconds. It was horrifying. And then it cut to black. So very, very interesting. Yes, absolutely, Jamie. That's what I remember. It was much more humanoid. And I think that's what made it much more terrifying. It looked like a deformed humanoid. It didn't look like, a cute little lizard that you could cuddle. And, looked like one of the the Cabbage Patch Kids, or the Garbage Pail Kids. That was it. Oh, goodness. Yeah, exactly. Especially with the gurgling sounds. That really made it scary, so. Yep. Well, that was from the day, and you can watch V The Final Battle on Amazon if you're so inclined, but it's all good. Express your opinion here. We're open to all opinions, so. Yeah, that's exactly it. And to me, it seemed like that scene lasted forever. And I remember having some nightmares for the weeks following that, so. Could be. Prefer not to feel that way. And then, of course, this other scene from the original V. I don't remember this skeleton here when one of the alien ships showed up, but that wasn't quite as powerful as the lizard baby scene, but I just thought I would share that all with you all to let you know that I have personal Mandela effects, so. Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Robert Englund was in that, wasn't he? Before he played Freddy Krueger. I forgot about that. Yeah, he was the alien Willie, wasn't he? Yeah, it might be. That's exactly how I feel, Brian, but, make of it what we will, as I like to say. So another example of it. Okay. So that's all I have for the main images right now, but that's just kind of a good example of different Mandela effects for different people, some individual ones. We all have different geographical ones, famous individuals, movie scenes. Yeah, TV programming, that's right, Dwayne. There's so many different aspects behind it, and it actually came up when I was looking at the courthouses in Iowa, and it was at the one in Grundy Center. When I looked at the courthouse, you could tell the windows were broken on it. But when I go back and I look at the video footage of it, and I think it was Dwayne or somebody who called this out, rightfully so, it looked like they were reflections. But I actually talked to a deputy on scene, and he confirmed they were broken, and I wanted to go up into the courthouse and film out of the broken window. Well, of course, I couldn't go in. It was Sunday, so that's what I get from my poor schedule. So, yeah. And that could be it, too. They can change scenes in movies and TV shows, and, things can change like that. But there's far too many examples of this for us to ignore, so. Yeah, that's a good one, too, Ann. I need to watch Rosemary's Baby again. That's a great flick. So. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Quebec. I'm saying it properly, right? Quebec, not Quebec, Quebec. Yeah, beautiful place. And I do have some explorations. I'm going to get north here in a couple weeks. I just have to finish up the south in the USA, then I'm going to get north. So, well, and the other thing is they have so many different versions of that. Okay, so let's look at some buildings now. Give me 1 second here. And we're going to transition to a different set of images. All right, give me 1 second here. And can you all see this? Yeah, good one. Can everybody see this beautiful old world building? All right. Let me clear up the other images there. All right, so for those of you who do not know, this is in an upcoming exploration, but it happened to fit perfectly in the Mandela Effect because this is from one of our nation's finest universities. At least, we'll be told it's one of our finest universities. It was actually considered one of the first land-grant universities, along with Penn State and Michigan State. This is the main building, or Old Main, as they called it, at Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa. Yes, I'm still in Iowa. Now, I know a lot of graduates from Iowa State, and yes, I will confess one of my early teaching gigs was there. Very beautiful campus and university. It's kind of a little jewel that's hidden up there in Ames, Iowa. But a lot of people don't know about this building. This building was built during the United States Civil War, supposedly. Right after they established Iowa State University, originally it was the, they're going to hate me for this. Trying to remember what the original name was. Iowa Agriculture College. I think that's what it started off with. They had a model farm there. It all was built around a model farm. Hey, Chassis, that's okay. You can go back and watch it. You're here now. So you made the building part. But in any event, yep, vanilla skied and everything. Oh, this has all the details that we're used to, Jamie. So in any event, so this was it. And they said they built this in a few years. It has a couple different architects, but you talk to a lot of Iowa State historians or other historians, and a lot of people don't even remember it. It's something that's kind of buried in the archives. Now, that's not suspicious in and of itself, but you'll never guess what happened to this building. Yeah, it does look familiar. It looks like the old main that I looked at the old soldiers' home in Wisconsin next to Milwaukee, that same building structure style. Ding, ding, ding. You got it. Fire, because how else would it be destroyed? Apparently, this one was hit by multiple fires, too. So we'll just take a look. So here's an actual picture of it after it was hit by one of the fires. It did really exist, at least if we believe the pictures. Yeah, I agree. A very interesting bottom level on this one. So. Good one, Polly. Yeah, that's a great question. How did all those buildings burn down? Let me try my John Levi here. It was fire. Magical fire. I always love it when he says that. And he's right. Magical fire. Yep, they say it burned. It burned a couple times, actually. So, this is a pretty nice image of it. I mean, it's basically just this castle that's out in the middle of the plains in the Midwest. So, yep. Fire, earthquake, tornado, some combination thereof. I'm surprised we haven't seen Plague of Locusts yet. Of course stone burns, especially when it burns hot enough. I forgot about that. Excuse me. But in any event, so yeah, this fairy tale building in Ames, Iowa in the 1860s, and it burned down in the early 1900s. Here's another image of it, and you can just see how prevalent it looks. Look at all these beautiful mowed fields that we have here. Oh, looks like we've got I'm not sure. Hard to tell what to make of this image show. But yeah, beautiful administration building. And then unfortunately it burned down, and here's some of the pictures. Hey, it looks like we have the Union Army there. I don't know. If this is the early 1900s, those uniforms seem a little out of date, so I'm not sure what's going on, if that's one of the earlier fires or what. I don't know, Eric. Maybe Sherman made another wrong turn. You think? Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, and it all boils down to that, and we're just not sure. But these are what we get in the images, so it just creates more questions than it answers. So, yeah, exactly. All right. And I really love this image of it, because here's where you really see how striking it is. Now, is this image real? Is it doctored? I mean, it just looks like someone took a dollhouse model and put it out in the middle of the fields, and maybe there's something to that in this image. So, oh yeah, someone remembers the story from Indianapolis. Hey, don't worry, okay? There's something buried in the archives of the Indiana Historical Society that'll verify what really happened. I had a commenter that assured me of that. It was pretty funny on the Indianapolis video. You can go check it out if you're so inclined. Yeah, there you go. Now, this is the building that replaced it. This is Curtis Hall. Or, excuse me, I am completely wrong. This is Beardshire Hall. So, let me correct myself. It's been a while. I was shooting from the hip, okay? So, this is Beardshire Hall, and this is the building they built in place of Old Main that burned down. And they built it around 1906, the exact same time that they built the county courthouse just south in Des Moines. And you even see similar architectural features. Remember these symbols that we saw? And this is the current administration building at Iowa State University to this day. So you have the large columns, but what I find impressive is up here on the pediment. What is with this orb that we always see? Yeah, Beardshire Hall. You're absolutely right, Samuel. Beardshire Hall. It's spelled like beard and then shear, as in it shears. Yep, that's what they put on a university back in the early 20th century, along with that beautiful county courthouse down in Polk County, in the county south of Story County, where Ames is located. But you see some of these little intricacies here as well. They're split up, so I'm not sure what to make of that. So, yeah, that could be. So that's what's there now, and that's what they apparently built in a very short amount of time. And here's what it looks like from a distance. Nice dome on that. Very beautiful dome. Don't worry, I've got some explorations scheduled for some universities too. We'll be taking a look at a couple of them because many are interesting. And no, it doesn't have to be a large land-grant university like Iowa State. You can find a lot of interesting things at these smaller universities as well. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does give that feeling, doesn't it? So, well, here's an older picture of it, and kind of looks different, but then looks the same. You still see the same symbols. Oh, look, Iowa State College. Back when it was called Iowa State College. So, oh, yes, I have Cosmic Confusion. I even have a special video on it, but right now I've only done a members exploration for it. I'll probably be doing another Grand Houses exploration video, and I'll probably be featuring the Biltmore. I think there's a couple houses in Europe I want to compare it to, so in any event. Well, that's Beardshire Hall, and here's another view of old Beardshire Hall at Old Iowa State, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, that's what it all boils down to, doesn't it, Anne? There is no place like home, so. Anyways, another image of Beardshire with a ton of people in front of it. So not sure what's going on there. Maybe it was graduation time, or maybe they found out they didn't have to take my class. Oh, yeah. Well, of course. What else would you do, Polly? You need to have your pediment and your dome and your large columns. How else are they going to know it's a university? Come on. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Okay, now we're going to jump over to one of the quintessential examples that I think of the Mandela Effect in buildings. Now, this has been featured on Quantum of Conscience channel, and I believe it was also featured, I'm trying to remember what alternative researcher I saw it on. This is in Troy, New York, and this was part of Troy University, a university that existed for all of 3 years, 1858 to 1861. And as part of it, they built this incredible Byzantine building with 4 Byzantine spires for a university that only was in existence for 3 years. Ah, yes, of course. But in any event, this is definitely something that Matt would call a reality breakdown. This is something that potentially shows a Mandela effect. Now, here's one of the images of this incredible building that you see from the town of Troy, and you can see how it's just so prominent on that hill, and it just really stands out. Like, what exactly is going on there? Shh. Yeah, no 3 here. We got a 4. We got a 4. Oh, yeah, you're all looking at them now, aren't you? This one, a lot of these pics are, Eric. A lot of these pictures are, so. But it really stands out, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And here's that other perspective of it. This is probably the most famous image of it, and they just called this the University Building. Supposedly built in 1858 for a university that went defunct in 1861 prior to the Civil War. And then this building, guess what? She burned down in 1969. It might be, Chassis. It might be, or it might be an overall fake, but supposedly there's documentation of it. It existed. It just really stands out. I don't even think it took them 3 years, Dwayne. I think they said they built this one in a magical year. So, as always, make of that what you will. Oh, yeah. Well, of course. Gothic architecture is easy. And everybody who came over to the United States who immigrated was a stonemason. Remember the priest in Kansas City? Yep, good old Father Donnelly. He could do it all. Yeah, I didn't mean for that O'Brien joke to get by everybody, but, that was just my little joke about someone saying they knew someone who built their house and they only had one name in the distant past, and that's how they disproved it. It's always fire. What else would it be? And then this is another interesting image. So here you have this very beautiful ornate church, and yet you have what looks to be a bit of a compilation of mud there in front of it. So, same area. I think this one was from Chicago. I'd have to check. But the whole reason that I end with this photo on these images is this shows you what exactly is wrong here with this image. Oh my goodness. Is it just a 2-dimensional building? I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks a lot like it, doesn't it, Chassis? So it's really hard to say on all this, so I just don't know what to tell you about it. It's quite fascinating. Yeah, 2 clocks. Good call out there. 2 clocks and 2 windows. 3 windows. Large cymatic window, and then 2 satellite cymatic windows. So I guess you just didn't need a street or a road to build a giant building back then. It's just because people worked harder, Dr. Salad. And yes, I've got my sarcastic meter turned up to 10 here. It's just because people worked harder back then. Yeah, and that's just it. 2 clocks too high. Interesting domes on this. Now, is this real? Is this an image? Is this a depiction? Not really sure. Yeah, there you go, Anne. That's another example. So, again, we can see this in quantifiable examples and images, photos. We can compare memories with friends. We've got musical albums that we don't know. We have films that seem to have been changed. We have some films you can't even access anymore for reasons unknown. Oh, what do we got, Paulie? Probably. Very likely, I would say. But when you open up this whole concept of the Mandela Effect, is it a breakdown in the simulation? Is it a breakdown in reality? Is it a reality glitch? Is it some sort of program that's malfunctioning? Are we on overlapping timelines? Does CERN have something to do with it? All possibilities are open there, so. Yeah, exactly. Good question. I guess maybe you have to rappel from one of the towers and you read the time there. You can set your pocket watch by it. It might be, Juliana. It might be. Hard to say. Like it was subjected to some kind of terrific force. Well, that's what it all boils down to. Ask everyone and see what they've got. So, well, that's the other thing, M1. Is there a Christian connection, or is that just what we're told? That's always something we have to be cautious on, so. There you go. And for a lot of people, that tells them what the truth is. Maybe. And they could be. Supernatural alterations, convergence, all are possibilities. So, anyways, that completes our image review for the Mandela Effect. And that's something we're going to consider as we go forward with our explorations. Now, my primary focus will continue to be 5 eras. But I am more of the mindset that it seems to be a combination because, like all of you, I've encountered too many things that I just simply can't ignore. So, not yet, Eric. That's some material for an upcoming video. But I know you want to talk about it, so it's going to be in an upcoming video. One of the Old World and Films series that's coming up, and then we'll talk about it. Don't worry, I'll give Sinbad his day. Oh, yeah. Well, in any event, that's what it all comes down to. That we have all these buildings, we have all these events, we have all these overlapping timelines. We're not sure exactly what to make of it. So we're also given things that seem to be impossible, and yet we're told that the timelines make perfect sense. Yes, they could do that back then. Yes, it was no issue. So that's all I have for looking at the Mandela Effect. And if there's other aspects of it you would like to explore, oh, good one, Adam. But isn't it interesting that a lot of people have strong feelings and they expect their feelings to justify things? Or my favorite, you need to do more research and you need to think like I think. If you do more research, you'll think like I think. And that's what I'm trying to tell you to do. So, yep. And that's a good point. What's our real story? And that's what we'll be told too. Our devotion to a God. Maybe. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Nope, nothing really does. So, Adam, here's my recollection of it, and you can make of it what y'all will. People talked about strange observations in the 20th century, but they really didn't talk about this probably until the late 2000s, early 2010s. Now, is it something that you could say that came with the internet? Maybe. But people were definitely aware of things not seeming correct, so. Yep, I'm all with you on that one. So, and many different people have their beliefs. And here's the thing: I'm not here to tell you what to believe or what you think is right. I believe it's a personal journey, but I think it's important that we share information. And we're all very intelligent people, and we always try to find different explanations for everything. Hey, Augusta. Well, a lot of things were destroyed in fires from historical archives. And that reminds me, Nate and Jamie, welcome. Good of you to drop by. It's okay. I think it does it when I cover certain topics, so don't worry about it. What's that? Oh, yeah. Well, and they change a lot of things. One of the things I tried to call out when I was doing the courthouse explorations and the state capitol explorations is that they're always doing renovations, and yet there doesn't seem to be any legitimate construction reason or safety reason. Of course, they'll always say that it's for to do these renovations. It's quite bizarre. Well, that's true, Chassis, and at the same time, it was a little different. What you tended to see in the 20th century, and I'll just generically refer to that before the rise of the internet, is that people tended to have these beliefs, but you kept them more to yourself. You didn't openly share it. So you could find people. Juan, good to see you. Welcome. You could find people who would think this, but they wouldn't share it. So it was there. It's just it wasn't shared as much. People didn't openly talk about it. They certainly wouldn't do a live stream. There was no means to. Now, you might have a coffee club that would talk about it or say something about it. But yeah, outside of that, no. And it was really hard to find. So. Oh, what's that, Juliana? Oh, yeah. Well, book barbecues have always been a thing. They'll tell you they're not, but they've always been a thing, unfortunately. And no, it's not just in certain nations where they do them, so. Yeah, there were. And what was interesting, though, was it was a lot more controlled back then, too. So you were within one limit or the other limit. If you went outside of it, you were completely discarded. So it just depended on the year and the day and the time. So, well, I'm glad you could join. So. What's this one? Well, there's all kinds of different accounts on that, and that's a Mandela effect in and of itself. Was it round? Was it flat? Was it a triangle? Was it an obloid spheroid? I don't know. It depends what day you ask. Sometimes you just have to have some fun with it. Okay. Well, to close up for the evening, one, it was great to see everybody, and I appreciate all the comments, and I'll look to get back and review some of them. Coming up this week, we've got a full exploration schedule and getting back to the full production schedule on videos since I'm off the road. And we're going to get back to Old World in film. And we got a really good one coming up this week that talks about exactly what's going on with some of these, how shall we say, reality breakdowns. In fact, it's probably one of the quintessential films from the 80s that for some reason gets overlooked. So, hey, Lady J, good to see you. So we're going to talk about that, and then we've got some more explorations coming up. I'm going to look at what's called the research paradox and how research is used to, how shall we say, dictate outcomes, which it is. And then we're also going to take a look at some of the deeper explorations of different cities going down south, and then I'm going to work my way north from there. So full schedule ahead, and then I've got a good theory video coming up because one of the comments actually incited a great idea about talking about how things arose in the previous civilization. Now, it's a theory video, but that's not to say that it didn't really happen, or it's not to say it's not from some other timeline. So, well, I greatly appreciate that, everybody. Yeah, well, it depends what day you ask him, too, just like Carl. And that's what it's all going to boil down to. And anybody's welcome to share any footage that you have, videos, pictures, or whatever. I'm happy to give full credit and feature them in exploration. So I most certainly will, Eric. I most certainly will. Well, you should watch my dating video, Songbird, and watch the video on dates. I'm not exactly confident in dating, and I've actually done full quote-unquote academic studies on it, and those aren't times I like to remember. So it's really hard to say exactly what the exact date is because there's no baseline event, and I'm not confident in what it is, but... all right. Well, in any event, if you have additional questions, go ahead and hit me up in the comments afterwards. You can shoot an email to the channel email. You can contact me on the channel Reddit, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend wherever you are in the land. And as always, it's great to see everybody. And for channel members, the video on the Mystery Building in Kansas City will be coming out shortly. And then for Prime Explorers, there's going to be a special dialogue piece where I share some of the insider information on that. So I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being the wonderful people that you are. Take care of yourself.